Hi, I'm Brian Galvin with Varsity Tutors, here to talk about some tips for homeschooling as parents have been thrust into this role as work from home and teach from home, be kind of the homeschooler and the parent, and still have to get a lot of work done and things. It's been a challenge for a lot of people. And so I want to go through some tips to make that less challenging, a little more productive, and hopefully a little bit more fun for both you and for your student. So step one is try to create some kind of a structure. It's important for kids who thrive on structure. They know every day when the bell rings, when is lunch, when is recess, when does one class start and another end, all those kinds of things with structure. So if you can create a structure at home with, the same bedtime and awake time, the same time that school starts, and then past just having a structure, also think about how you can mimic all the activities of a normal school day. So is there outdoor time? Kids don't just wake up and they're at school. They walk to a bus stop and they interact with some friends, and then they take a bus ride, kind of get their head right, walk into school, have a little bit of time to fool around before the bell rings and they have to be seated. If you can have some kind of morning activity after breakfast, but before we start, and mimic that, get some fresh air, kind of get their bodies moving, that can be helpful. Think about how the school day is multimodal. It's not just all reading something off a screen or watching videos. It's interactive. There are discussions. There are hands-on projects. There may be a music room or a gym class or an arts and crafts project that they do. School is multimodal, and so try to find ways to mix it up. What is your kid doing, and when is that time? When are they reading independently? When is that time? When are they listening? When are they doing something social? The more that your structure can mix things up a little bit so that kids don't get bored or things don't get stale, that's the more that you're mimicking the cadence of a regular school day that they know and that's sort of been perfected over the years to make sure that kids are mixing things up and staying fresh. Now, as you create a schedule, also recognize it's important to give your kids, if not a choice, at least a voice in what their schedule is like. And what we mean by that is, one, they know what a typical school day looks like. So you don't have to create it from scratch. You can ask, hey, what time do you normally have lunch? What time do you normally do recess? What time do you normally do math versus reading versus arts and crafts projects, anything like that? And they may well tell you that this is what works best for them. A lot of kids, they know what the structure is. They'll tell the substitute teacher what should be happening or their parent what should be happening. And so lean into that if they have that. Another thing that's really helpful is if kids feel that they chose the activity or the schedule, they have that much more ownership of it. They're that much more bought in. And so another thing to think about is if you can give kids a choice between two or more things where you like all the outcomes, but they've picked it, so it's their schedule and they're bought in, that's great, you win. You don't have to enforce it. They'll help enforce it because it was their idea. And so if you ask things like, hey, do you want to do reading in the morning or right after lunch? Or do you want to do math first thing in the morning or toward the end of a day? They may tell you what they want to have happen. So one, they've had a little bit of choice in what works best for them. Two, they picked it, so they're that much more bought in. One of the quotes we love here at Varsity Tutors comes from Ben Franklin about education, and it's, tell me and I forget, teach me and I may learn, involve me and I definitely learn. And so what that means is we've got to involve learners in their own education. And so personalizing their schedule can be really helpful. Also personalizing what they learn. And so another important thing to think about is you may have gotten something sent home from school that's sort of a standard syllabus. This is what we cover in April. This is what we would have covered in May. And it's got textbook chapters or unit names and those kind of things. But that doesn't mean that your child hasn't maybe fallen behind a little bit this semester and could use a little bit more review on something, or that they haven't skipped ahead a little bit and could actually stand to go a little bit faster. And so if you can assess where they are in that one-size-fits-all syllabus to find out exactly where they are, if they could stand to a little bit of review or benefit from a little review, giving that to them may mean that they actually get through the semester faster because they have all those fundamental skills that they needed that the school system may have raced them through to be able to teach the one-size-fits-all. Or one of the reasons that kids act up at times is because they're bored. They're just not challenged. And so if you find that, hey, the school would have had them go through one of these chapters a week, but actually they're a little bit ahead of that and they've been skipping ahead, and you go a little bit faster and then find new curriculum for them to do into the summer, that may be just what they needed. When kids are challenged, when every assignment feels manageable but not easy, that's when they're at their best. And so taking advantage of this distance learning time to personalize could turn this from kind of a bummer, we all have to gut this out together, to really a great opportunity to reach kids at the level that they're at. Now, another important thing to recognize, we've gotten this question a few times from parents, but hey, why does my kid treat me differently than their teacher? Here I am, I'm the homeschooler, I'm supposed to be the teacher. They don't treat me the same way they treat their teacher. There's not the same respect, not the same cadence or deference or anything like that. The important thing to recognize is you're not their teacher. You're everything else, including the teacher, especially now. School is inherently social. There are group projects, there's recess, there's just friends to pass notes to or chit chat with between activities. Right now, your parent, your teacher, and your schoolyard chum, they're one of their only outlets that they see and can play around with every day. So if they're a little confused, maybe the wrong word, but if they want to play around a little bit, goof off, it doesn't mean that they're not respecting you as the teacher. It may just mean they're actually seeing you as a friend in that moment. And so try to find ways to keep this social for them. If you can use video conferencing tools like Zoom or Google Hangouts to have discussions once a week between a student and their friends or classmates on the book that they're reading or a project that they're working on, just so that they get to go through this with their peers, that's helpful because it shows that there's a social component and that's something they're used to. It also takes a little bit of the heat off of you as being the only person that's really talking about these assignments with them. And so if you can share that load with different parents, hey, once a week, every parent moderates one session that we're doing some kind of social time, that buys you a little bit of time, it adds socialization into the routine. And so try to find ways to keep things social, while also recognizing that if kids give you a harder time than they would give their teacher, some of it is they need a friend right now. They need that outlet, somebody to goof off with, somebody to trouble make with a little bit. And so they may be seeing you as that as well. Now, one other secret from the Teacher's Lounge that all teachers know is that not every lesson plan is a success. Some lesson plans blow up in your face and you're just trying to get to the end of the hour, the end of the class until, it's time for gym or recess or something so you can reevaluate. And so for you as possibly a first-time teacher, or at least the first time teaching some of this curriculum, recognize that you will have to iterate, you will have to change, you will have some lessons or days blow up in your face. And that's not the only time your students ever seen that. They've seen that in school plenty of times where a teacher had to react on the fly and then, as soon as they got a chance to go, take a break, think, wow, that was a disaster. So your kids seen that before. They've seen things change, lesson to lesson before, and every teacher that's been through this has made those mistakes. So know that you're going to have to change some things. You're going to have to reevaluate some things. That's okay. That's expected. The community is here for you. You can reach out to parents. A lot of teachers are making themselves as available as possible throughout this period. So you do have a support system there. We've found at Varsity Tutors, parents really enjoy our free live virtual school day classes because it's an opportunity to let an expert take the wheel for an hour or two at a time while you get some other things done. So, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to change or iterate. Don't take it too personally when lessons fail, and try to have some fun with this. Remember, have some structure, involve your kids in the structure, personalize to them. This can be a really big opportunity, and know that all plans are subject to change, including yours.